the New Jerusalem.
1,656 years. 1,656 years. Let's see if we can do. I might have to do this on a. I might have to do this on a. I don't know if I could do this by just my brain, but there's 365 point roughly 24 days in a year. Now, the 24 days is because every 4 years you have to do a leap year, a leap day. Because in 4 years, this 1/4 of a day adds up to 1 day. That's why we get February the 29th every 4 years. Okay, so that we get the calendar back. If you, let me put it this way. How many seconds are in a 24-hour day? 24-hour day. You can divide it into the smallest unit, which is a second. In a 24-hour day, there's 86,400 seconds. So what does that mean? That means if you took the 24-hour cycle as a cycle and divided it up into the smallest units, it would make 86,400 of these little units. Now, the sacred measurement in the Bible is the 7-day week, because on the 7th day, God rested. Take 7 days and multiply it by 86,400 seconds. Oh, 86,000, just the number, 86,400. 604,800. Now let's divide that by 365.24, which is the number of years, days in a year. 365.24. And what do I get? I get 1655.897 492. The point being, this is pretty close to 656, isn't it? My point being is this. 1656, which is this, is not meant to be an exact number. This number corresponds to a cycle, a complete cycle. But instead of seconds in this cycle, which would be 86,400, we're using 7-day weeks, which is the sacred unit of the Bible. And if you use 7-day weeks as the cycle, the smallest unit in this circle, this cycle, it comes out to 1,656 years. Is that hard to understand? What I'm saying is that this is a mythological amount of time, not literal. From Adam to the flood is mythological. So you can't take 1,656 years and add it to 2348 BC when they thought the flood had happened and come out with the beginning of the earth at 6,000 BC. You know, that's not true. Or 6,000-year-old earth, 4004 BC. But if you're going to be a true Christian, that's what you have to think. So all I'm saying is that I got another way around that. And I'm saying is that from Adam to the flood is a mythological cycle. It's not to be taken literally. Adam to flood is a cycle, and it's mythological. There are 10 patriarchs to the flood. So what do we have here? Here's the Bible, 10 patriarchs to the flood. Here's ancient Sumer, 10 patriarchs to the flood. Here's ancient China, 10 kings to the flood. Where'd this idea come from? 10 and then the flood. It comes from the Tower of Babel. is something truthful in the Tower of Babel story. Something about Sumer. Something about every culture in the world getting some information from Sumer, from the Sumerians, the ones who invented writing. And then they dispersed. And where they dispersed, they took with them bits and pieces. And if they went from Sumer, well, this is Sumer. If they went from Sumer to China, they kept the 10 kings and fled. And if it's among the Habiru, which is the Hebrews, who were the invaders of Sumer, remember that Sumer's here, and then from the north, the Aryans invaded. And from the south, the Semites invaded. And these Semites, these were the Habiru, which were called that by the Egyptians, which is the Hebrews. The word Hebrew means those who crossed over. So what happens here is that poor Sumer is in the middle and gets invaded. And so its culture leaks into these other cultures. Thing is, what's interesting is that then from Noah to Abraham is also 10. Now let's look at the book of Daniel, because I mentioned this before. This from the book of Daniel. And whilst I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel and presenting my supplication before the Lord my God for the holy mountain of my God, yea, whilst I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. And he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I am now come forth to give thee skill and understanding. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore understand the matter and consider the vision. 70 weeks are determined upon the people, thy people, and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression, and to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and the prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Now the anoint the most holy is important, because that refers to the Messiah. Messiah means the anointed one. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, the wall even in troublous times. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, that means killed, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. That would be the temple being destroyed in 70 AD. And the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. I'll stop there because the rest of it involves future prophecy of the Antichrist. So what we have here is 60, let's see, it's to anoint the commandment of the Messiah be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. 62 weeks is 62, and 7 weeks is 69 weeks. Now these are weeks. They don't mean weeks of days. Just like when we say, I'll have a dozen, you could say a dozen eggs or a dozen donuts. Doesn't mean one thing. Nor does weeks mean just weeks of days. In this case, it's weeks of years. So, what we do is we take 69 times 7, and we get 483 years. So he's saying in 483 years the Messiah will appear. From the commandment, from the date that the commandment is given to return. Now there's been various controversies upon which is the exact date that the commandment was given to return. You have different people giving different times. There are 4 commandments that were given to return. The first one was by Cyrus, and then his predecessors each gave their own rendition of the same commandment that was given by Cyrus. So you can choose one, but let's see if I got this from here. So so we see Ezra receiving his decree from Artaxerxes in 457 BC. In the 7th year of Artaxerxes, the decree gives further help in establishing the temple, but it also gives Israel the right to self-government. So if 457 BC was the official date, then 457 BC and 483 years until Messiah. So we'll subtract this. So 7 from 13 is 6, and 5 from 7 is 2. So 26 AD. Well, Jesus was born in 4 BC because Herod was alive to persecute Jesus, and Herod died in 4 BC. So if Jesus was born in 4 BC, and if 26 AD, Jesus would be 30 years old, which was the year that you become a priest, a year that you take on your commissions in Judaism. So what does this mean? The book of Daniel says that the Messiah would come in 26 AD, and that he would be cut off, he would be killed. And then desolations would come, and the city would be destroyed, which was destroyed in 70 AD. So, does that mean that Jesus is the Messiah? He's the only one that came at that time.